The restaurant business is just notoriously brutal. Behind every perfectly plated meal you get, there's an operator constantly battling razor-thin margins, totally unpredictable foot traffic, and this never-ending need for cash just to keep the lights on and the doors open. You've got inventory that literally rots if you don't sell it fast enough, and labor costs always climbing. But what if the way restaurants afford to grow was completely turned on its head? What if the exact same app you use to get rewards for your dinner was actually funding the kitchen itself? Today in this explainer, we are breaking down a massive $320 million shift in how the hospitality industry survives and thrives. Okay, let's dive into this. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The restaurant capital problem. 2. Enter inKind, a new model. 3. How the math actually works. 4. The $320 million Liberty injection. 5. AI and the empty table. And finally, number 6, the future of embedded finance.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the restaurant capital problem, and how we actually fund the kitchen.
Seriously, I want you to think about the real-world grit behind that glossy dining room. How does your favorite restaurant actually afford to grow? Because every single day, operators are dealing with just massive financial needs. They need capital to open new locations, renovate dining rooms, upgrade equipment, hire staff, and just manage the crazy, unpredictable seasonal swings of the food service world. Maybe the HVAC system goes down on the hottest day of July, or they want to launch a brand new tasting menu. When you sit down at your favorite local spot, you might not be thinking about how they paid for that new wood-fired oven or the expanded patio, but that question, how a restaurant actually affords to grow, is the core of a massive economic struggle.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing just how limited the old options were. Historically, an operator really only had two deeply flawed choices. First up, traditional bank loans. And let me tell you, these are notoriously difficult to secure. If you're an independent operator without a decades-long history, tons of physical collateral, or perfectly predictable cash flow, banks move incredibly slowly, or they just outright say no. They want perfect predictability, which is something the hospitality industry literally never offers. Then you've got merchant cash advances. Sure, they deliver cash fast, but man, they are expensive. Repayment is usually tied to taking a painful, immediate slice of your daily sales, which just chokes your cash flow exactly when you need it most. And crucially, neither of these options actually helps the restaurant bring a single new customer through the front door.
Which brings us to Section 2, Enter inKind, a totally new model where capital actually meets customer demand. Founded back in 2014, inKind set out to solve both of those problems at the exact same time, the need for cash and the need for foot traffic. And look, they aren't some small startup just testing a theory. Providing over $600 million in capital to their partners isn't just proof of concept, it's proof of massive scale. They are currently connecting nearly 5 million guests with over 7,700 restaurants across the U.S. And this includes premium heavy-hitter operators like the Mina Group and the Jose Andres Group, right alongside your local independent favorites. They have built serious credibility by fundamentally changing how the funding mechanism works.
So let's move right along to Section 3 and see how this operates day to day, how the math actually works by following the dollar.
So, the crucial point is understanding the specific three-step cycle, because this is definitely not a conventional loan. Think of it like a giant puzzle where everyone gets exactly what they need. Step 1. inKind provides funding to the restaurant by literally purchasing food and beverage credit from the operator in bulk. Step 2. The restaurant gets that upfront cash immediately. Bam! There are no monthly interest payments bleeding them dry, and no giving up hard-earned equity in their business. Then Step 3. inKind turns around and sells that credit to you, the diner, through their app, basically incentivizing you to discover these places and pay through their platform.
And here's what it looks like for you on the app. It gives you up to 25% back in rewards when you dine at these partner restaurants. Now, obviously, that's a massive incentive for a consumer. But look at the bigger picture here. This is the real aha moment of this whole business model. That 25% reward, it isn't just a fun marketing gimmick, it is actually functioning as a customer acquisition cost for the restaurant, while the remaining 75% of the check is essentially the credit being redeemed. To put that into perspective, the restaurant gets upfront funding for their renovations or expansion without taking on a dime of debt, all while gaining access to a dedicated consumer network whose rewards practically guarantee they're going to walk through the door. It's a win-win. And that brings us to the news of the hour in Section 4. The $320 million Liberty injection and the weight of serious institutional backing.
$320 million. Just let that scale sink in for a second.
This is a massive new financing commitment from Liberty Mutual Investments. They're stepping in as both a senior and mezzanine lender, meaning they're providing a hybrid of debt and equity financing. This gives them priority while still allowing them to participate in the company's growth upside. Listen, this isn't just some optimistic venture capital bet. This is serious, traditional, institutional weight, recognizing that the way we fund restaurants fundamentally needs to evolve.
So where exactly is all that money going? Well, on top of a $450 million capital raise from earlier in the year, this Liberty Mutual funding is highly targeted. inKind plans to use this war chest to expand to up to 10,000 additional U.S. restaurants, completely enhance the consumer-facing mobile app experience, and, this is huge, build out AI-native demand tools. That means moving way beyond just being a funding source and becoming a core piece of the restaurant's technological infrastructure.
And that last point is so vital it gets its own focus in Section 5, AI and the Empty Table, Precision Guest Targeting.
Pretty much every restaurant owner on Earth will tell you the exact same thing. A packed house on a Friday night doesn't do a thing to solve the problem of a totally empty dining room on a Tuesday afternoon. Historically, restaurant marketing has been blunt, like a sledgehammer. Operators send out mass email blasts or aggressive widespread discounts. But mass discounting totally erodes your margins. And actually, scratch that, it's worse. It conditions your best, most loyal customers to hold off and just wait for a deal. Precision AI marketing, on the other hand, is designed to identify and fill specific, underutilized seats without cannibalizing those customers who are already planning to come in and pay full price. So inKind is building AI to make this demand generation laser precise. They're looking at highly specific data points, guest behavior, restaurant preferences, geography, historical dining patterns, and then they're combining all of that with the restaurant's real-time capacity. The goal here is to get the exact right diner who might normally just stay home and cook into the right seat at precisely the right time. They're literally turning an empty table into a profitable interaction without discounting the full price check from the couple celebrating their anniversary at the table right next to them.
Let's pull back and look at the big picture in our final section. The future of embedded finance, moving beyond just the point of sale.
The competitive landscape for restaurant financing is truly heating up right now. Consider transactional underwriting models like Toast Capital or Square Loans. These are incredibly useful tools that offer cash advances based strictly on a restaurant's historical processing volume and past performance. But contrast that with inKind. inKind approaches the market from an entirely different direction. They aren't just underwriting against past credit card sales, they are tying the funding directly to future guest acquisition. The funding mechanism fundamentally relies on bringing diners back to the table. Both models absolutely have their place, but they solve very different problems for an operator. And this brilliantly illustrates the fundamental shift happening in the industry right now, captured perfectly in this quote from our source material. We are expanding beyond just operational software into platforms that connect capital, consumers, and data in ways that could entirely shape how restaurants grow. We're moving beyond basic software that just helps a restaurant take an order, manage shifts, or process a credit card. We are entering an era of true commerce networks. These platforms are converging the money, the consumers, and the data all into one seamless ecosystem, fundamentally reshaping the economics of how a hospitality business scales from a single location to a national empire. Which leaves us with this totally fascinating question to chew on. Will the future of your dining experience be funded by the app in your pocket? Because as institutional giants like Liberty Mutual pour hundreds of millions into this space, the lines between how a restaurant pays for its kitchen and how you pay for your meal are entirely blurring. When consumer behavior directly capitalizes the kitchen, everybody wins. The next time you sit down in a great restaurant and pull out your phone for a reward, you might just be the reason that restaurant is able to grow. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep your eyes on the data.